Chapter 61. 61. A group photo with fans. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 61. A group photo with fans. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Learning from the incident where fans were almost injured during the previous episode, the director decided not to have any segments where audience members were invited onto the stage. Instead, the guests would follow the script and complete the game activities. For this episode, the game was about feeding bamboo to the giant pandas. The panda enclosure had just built a new wooden shelter for the pandas, providing them a place to rest. However, they would still be taken back to their separate enclosures at night. The setup for today's game was to have the pandas hide in the wooden house, and the guests would use bamboo to entice them to come out. The person who successfully lured out a panda would be the winner. While the actors were getting ready backstage, Xia Xian brought the 3 pandas to the wooden house. Having taken 3 days off, Xia Xian's return surprised the giant pandas, who eagerly gathered around her. Pippi and Dodo even climbed onto her legs. Xia Xian chuckled and said, "You mischievous little ones are getting chubbier by the day. I can't carry both of you." After upgrading the beast language system, communicating with them had become much easier. They could even understand normal speech. The 2 little pandas pouted and said pitifully, "Xia Xian, you are biased. You only pay attention to the little monkey and ignore us. You even say we're fat." Xia Xian reassured them, "You chubby ones are adorable. I wish you both could get even rounder." Bao remained timid, but he couldn't resist coming closer. He looked at Xia Xian with concern and asked, "Xia Xian, are you hurt? There's a smell of blood on you." Xia Xian exposed her arm and said, "Nothing to worry about, it's just some scratches." "Bao, you're so attentive." After praising Bao, Xia Xian gave a final reminder to the 3 pandas, "You 3 need to behave later. Hide inside the house, and if a kind lady or gentleman comes to feed you, be good and come out. Don't be afraid, they won't hurt you." The 3 pandas nodded, revealing extremely cute smiles. They obediently followed Xia Xian and entered the wooden house one by one. Before the official filming began, there was an interactive segment with fans. Fans who came to watch the variety show filming could take group photos with their idols and receive autographs. One girl, wearing 2 ponytails and a baseball cap, nervously approached Xia Xian and asked, "Miss Xia, can I have your autograph?" Xia Xian hadn't expected to have fans among those who came to see the pandas and the variety show. She was pleasantly surprised and said, "Of course you can." Xia Xian picked up a pen and signed for the young girl. The girl looked at it with joy and said, "Your handwriting is so nice. Can I take a group photo with you and the giant pandas?" "Of course." Xia Xian quickly agreed. Then, she called out the 3 giant pandas and took group photos with the fans. After that, a couple more fans came up to get Xia Xian's autograph, and she cooperated enthusiastically. Wan had finished taking photos with all the fans and was now resting in a shaded area. Seeing that even a zookeeper had fans, she was puzzled. She asked her manager, Li Jie, "Who is that? How did she become a regular guest on the show and seem quite popular with the audience?" Li Jie held a small fan for Wan and said, "She's a zoo employee who recently became popular. She has over 600,000 fans already, and her fan base is growing faster than yours." Initially, when Wan heard that Xia Xian was an employee, she didn't react much. However, Li Jie's last sentence made her uncomfortable. She rolled her eyes and walked away. It wasn't until the staff came to maintain order that the fan photo shoots ended and everyone returned to their positions. The director had the guests play a game first, and the feeding of the pandas would come later when the recording was almost finished. Xia Xian's main role was to provide the guests with fresh bamboo and guide them on how to entice the pandas out of the wooden house. She also instructed them on how to feed the pandas without harming them. After a few attempts, the two guests couldn't get the pandas to come out. Feeling frustrated, Wan pouted, "These pandas are too shy. They don't want to come out at all. Miss Zookeeper, can you help me? Just call them out directly." Xia Xan awkwardly laughed. It seemed like there wasn't a cheating option for this segment, as mentioned by the director. She wasn't sure how to respond. Chapter 62. 62, Admitted to the Hospital Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 62. Admitted to the Hospital Again. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Mo Shu stepped forward to lighten the situation, jokingly saying, "We agreed on fair competition. How could you ask for help secretly from Miss Zookeeper, Wan Wan?" Wan Wan playfully glared at Mo Shu, not saying anything further, and continued to use bamboo to lure the giant pandas. In the end, with the efforts of both of them, they managed to successfully entice Pippi and Dodo out of the wooden house. Pippi and Dodo were ecstatic when they received the bamboo. They called for Bao to come out too, but Bao remained unmoved. Just as everyone assumed that Bao was shy and unwilling to come out, Xia Xin keenly noticed something amiss. She heard the sound of a fracture coming from the wooden house, and Bao seemed to be whimpering. Xia Xin didn't have time to explain to the others but urgently shouted, "Move back quickly. This house seems unstable and might collapse." Xia Xin simultaneously herded Pippi and Dodo, not letting them get too close in case they were injured. The director realized that something was wrong and loudly asked what was happening. Xia Xin couldn't answer him in time, as she was more concerned about comforting Bao. She went straight into the wooden door. The wooden house was very low, preventing her from standing up straight, and it was dim inside. Xia Xin tentatively called out for Bao, and he weakly responded, "Xia Xin, I think I can't move." Hearing Bao's words, Xia Xin felt panic rising and wondered if Bao was injured. She first comforted him, "Bao, don't be afraid. I'm here to help you." Then, Xia Xin crawled closer to Bao step by step. When she got closer, she realized that a piece of wood had fallen and there wasn't enough space for a person to crawl through. Xia Xin could only stretch out her hands with difficulty and said, "Bao, crawl over here slowly." Trembling with fear, Bao made a great effort to crawl towards Xia Xin. He kept going until Xia Xin held him in her arms. Only then did she notice that Bao's fur was damp, and it seemed like he had a wound. Xia Xin followed Bao's fur downward and felt a wooden splinter near his buttocks. It was probably a splinter from the broken wood. She thought Bao must have accidentally sat on it, causing the injury. At this moment, Xia Xin heard more cracking sounds from the wood, realizing that the house might collapse. She had to get out immediately. Xia Xin didn't have time to comfort Bao. She held him tightly and crawled out. The cracking sounds grew louder, and the wooden house collapsed just as Xia Xin was crawling out of the wooden door. Xia Xin managed to push Bao out in time, but her left leg was pinned down by the collapsed wood. Fortunately, the wooden house was small, and the wood wasn't too heavy. Xia Xin's leg was temporarily trapped, but she had a feeling that her nerves weren't affected. Calmly, Xia Xin directed the approaching staff to handle the situation. She said, "Send the pandas back to their enclosure and take care of them. Bao is injured, call the veterinarian to treat him." Pippi and Dodo, sensing that Xia Xin was injured, tried to help by pushing the wood off her. Xia Xin told them, "I'm fine. Stay back a bit so you won't get hurt." Afterward, the three pandas were led away by other zookeepers. Xia Xin remained in the pile of wood until they were gone. Wan had moved away when Xia Xin told them to, and Mo Shu was still on the scene, looking for any way he could assist. When the staff took the pandas away, he immediately came forward to help move the wood. With Mo Shu and the staff's assistance, Xia Xin finally managed to crawl out. Mo Shu supported her as she stood up and said, "Your leg seems quite serious. Your pants are torn. Xia Xian took a tentative step and felt a bit of pain in her leg. She walked with a limp and said, "It's not too bad. I don't think it's broken." Mo Shu admired Xia Xian and praised, "You're pretty tough." The director arranged for Xia Xian to be taken to the hospital. The on-duty doctor looked slightly surprised when he saw Xia Xian and said, "You're quite a regular visitor, young lady. You're back again." Embarrassed, Xia Xian scratched her head and asked, "Doctor, how do you recognize me?" The doctor said, "Last time, your boyfriend brought you here in a hurry. I thought it was some major issue. Turns out, you were just sleeping so soundly that you didn't hear everyone calling you." Xia Xian became even more embarrassed. She had just accidentally fallen asleep, and now she had somehow managed to make herself familiar to the doctor. Chapter 63. 63, A Hospital Visit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 63. A Hospital Visit. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The young intern who accompanied Xia Xian to the hospital was still a university student. She was very eager to hear about this kind of thing and immediately caught onto the topic of a boyfriend, teasing, "Xia Xian, you're so pretty. Your boyfriend must be handsome." Xia Xian hurriedly explained, "It's just a misunderstanding. I don't have a boyfriend. It was my friend who brought me here, and the doctor misunderstood." The doctor said, "Well, your friend must really care about you. I saw him anxiously waiting by your bedside all night." The young intern gave Xia Xian a knowing look and said, "Xia Xian, your face is all red, and you're still calling him a friend." Xia Xian was used to being teased in school and had always been quick to clarify. But this time, the teasing was about Jing Mo, and for some reason, she didn't know how to explain. Nervously, she said, "All right, I'm already at the hospital. Hurry back to the set." The young intern did indeed have a lot to do back on the set, so she didn't decline and left. Xia Xian involuntarily recalled the scene where Jing Mo had held her that day. Unfortunately, she had fallen asleep and couldn't quite picture that scene. She thought it was a shame she missed it. Xia Xian couldn't help but wonder, no matter what happened, Jing Mo always appeared calm and composed. Would he truly be anxious for me? I wonder what he would look like when he's genuinely worried. While Xia Xian was lost in thought, her legs suddenly twinged, and she couldn't help but cry out. The doctor had picked up a pen to write on a prescription pad. He said, "Your leg had a slight displacement due to the weight pressure. I've realigned it. Although it's not as severe as a fracture, you should still take it easy." Xia Xian nodded and tentatively moved her leg. Indeed, it wasn't as painful as before. The doctor couldn't help but ask, "What kind of work do you do? Are you a stunt double for martial arts? How come you're injured every day? A few days ago, you had glass shards in your arm, and now you've twisted your leg." Xia Xian rubbed her leg and said, "They're all accidents. I didn't expect to be so acquainted with the hospital." The doctor thought Xia Xian might be enduring hardships for the sake of earning money, and couldn't help but feel a little sorry for her. He advised, "While money is important, you should cherish your health more. When you're young, you're trading your body for money, but as you get older, you'll trade money for good health." Xia Xian couldn't argue and could only agree. She said, "Thank you for your concern, doctor. I'll be more careful in the future." The doctor said, "You should be observed in the hospital for a while. Tomorrow morning, we'll take an X-ray to check for any fractures. I'll transfer you to the orthopedics department. They've prepared a room for you on the 3rd floor. You can head up there." Hobbling, Xia Xian took the elevator with her treatment plan and messaged Zhao Nan on the way up. Xia Xian was afraid that Zhao Nan would worry if she didn't find her at home in the evening, so Xia Xian informed Zhao Nan that she was at the hospital due to an emergency shoot and would be back home tomorrow. Zhao Nan was also working overtime these days and didn't think much of it. She just reminded Xia Xian to rest well. It was only after getting off the elevator that Xia Xian remembered today was the day she was supposed to pick up Lael. Xia Xian smirked and thought, I hadn't even managed to bring Lael back yet, and now I was back in the hospital again. I guess I could only go home with Lael tomorrow. Xia Xian worried that Lael would be anxious not seeing her today, so she endured the pain and hobbled her way to the veterinary department to see Lael. After Xia Xian explained that they would be back home tomorrow, Lael gave her a concerned and caring look. Even the nurse joked, your little dog acts just like a person, understanding how to care for its owner. Proudly, Xia Xian replied that her precious dog was indeed intelligent. Returning to her ward, Xia Xian had just laid down when she received a call from Tang Hai, a colleague from the zoo. It had been a while since she had contacted Tang Hai. Previously, Tang Hai had been very attentive to her and even expressed his feelings for her. After learning about his feelings, Xia Xian had deliberately distanced herself from him, and the two hadn't been in touch for a long time. She was surprised to receive his call today. Answering the call, Xia Xian asked, Hi, Mr. Tang. Is there something you need? Tang Hai's hearty voice came through, Mr. Lu heard that you had another accident and is really worried about you. He asked me to represent the zoo to come and see you. Which room are you in? After Xia Xian heard that it was Lu Yuan who sent Tang Hai, she let down her guard and said, It's okay, Mr. Tang. You don't need to come all the way here. There's nothing major happening here. Chapter 64. 64. Attentiveness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 64. Attentiveness. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Tang Hai said, I've already bought the things and I'm downstairs at the hospital. Just tell me your room number, or else the things I bought will be wasted. Xia Xian had no choice but to tell Tang Hai her room number, and he arrived shortly after. Setting down the fruit basket and milk, Tang Hai went through the usual routine of inquiring about her condition. Xia Xian thought he was about to leave, but unexpectedly, he offered, since your leg isn't convenient right now, let me wash an apple for you. After saying that, Tang Hai took an apple and left, not giving Xia Xian a chance to refuse. Then Tang Hai proceeded to help Xia Xian get hot water and cut fruit, behaving like a boyfriend would. Even a lady in the same ward said to Xia Xian, these days it's hard to find such diligent men. You should cherish him. Xia Xian hurriedly explained, Ma'am, you've misunderstood. He's just my colleague. The lady continued, well, this young man must like you a lot. He's treating you so well. You should agree quickly. The lady's tone was upbeat, and it gave Xia Xian a headache listening to her. Tang Hai, who had just walked in, heard the conversation. He smiled shyly, didn't say anything, and seemed to tacitly accept this relationship. Xia Xian felt it was about time and urged Tang Hai to leave. She didn't want to hear more from the lady. Mr. Tang, I'm fine now. It's getting late, so go back and rest. You'll have to work tomorrow, said Xia Xian. Tang Hai said, it's fine. I'll stay here with you tonight. Tang Hai's eagerness made Xia Xian uncomfortable. She was about to refuse, but before she could say anything, the lady in the next bed spoke again, everyone needs someone to take care of them. Just let him stay. Xia Xian was caught in the middle and was in a dilemma. If she refused again, it might seem like she lacked common courtesy. Tang Hai had already taken control and went to get a folding bed from the nurse. He swiftly prepared the bed, and his speed left Xia Xian dumbfounded. Mr. Tang, you really shouldn't stay. We don't have any relationship, how do I explain to others if you stay? The lady, thinking she was being helpful, wanted to chime in but was silenced by a single glance from Xia Xian. Xia Xian said angrily, Ma'am, please don't speak without knowing the situation. I already have a boyfriend, and if you keep talking like that, my boyfriend will be angry. In her panic, Xia Xian conjured up a fictional boyfriend. You have a boyfriend? Tang Hai asked in a raised tone, sounding a bit annoyed. Xia Xian was just about to admit it when Zhao Nan's call came in at the perfect time. Zhao Nan's voice on the other end sounded urgent, even a little angry. She asked, Xia Xian, why didn't you tell me you were hospitalized? Before Xia Xian could respond, Zhao Nan continued, quickly tell me which ward you're in. I'm at the hospital right now. Xia Xian hadn't had time to explain when she felt like she had caught a lifeline. She hurriedly let Zhao Nan know her room number and told Tang Hai, Mr. Tang, you should hurry back. My friend is here. She will take care of me tonight. Tang Hai looked somewhat disappointed, a hint of disappointment flashing in his eyes. Before Tang Hai could say anything, Zhao Nan had burst into the room in a flurry and was standing by Xia Xian's bedside, inspecting the injury on her leg. Seeing Xia Xian's calf, which was swollen even more than her thigh, Zhao Nan angrily said, You're always like this. You never tell me when you're injured. If I hadn't seen the video from the scene online, I wouldn't have known you were hurt. You lied to me, saying you were busy with work just to avoid worrying me. You're not allowed to do this again next time. Xia Xian obediently admitted her mistake. I know, it was an accident. Thanks for coming. In truth, Xia Xian's latter sentence was meant to say that she was glad Zhao Nan had come to chase away the pursuer she didn't like. Seeing the fruit basket on the table, Zhao Nan asked curiously, who came to see you? They even brought a fruit basket. Xia Xian subtly indicated behind her that there was someone else. Zhao Nan finally noticed Tang Hai, who had been standing behind her the whole time. Due to the poor lighting where Tang Hai stood, he looked a bit eerie at first glance. That startled Zhao Nan, but she quickly regained her composure and asked, Who's this? Xia Xian introduced, This is my colleague from my department. The director asked him to represent the zoo and bring a fruit basket for condolences. As soon as Zhao Nan saw Tang Hai, she didn't like him. She felt that his gaze was very strange. Chapter 65. 65, An intruder. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 65. An intruder. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Zhao Nan and Xia Xian's unspoken understanding made it clear that Xia Xian also disliked Tang Hai. So, Zhao Nan straightforwardly said, We thank you for your gifts and trouble. You may go home and rest now. I'll take care of the rest. Tang Hai wanted to say something, but Zhao Nan noticed the reclining chair behind him and commented, Mister, you are so considerate. You even set up a reclining chair for me. Thank you. Without giving him a chance to speak, Zhao Nan ushered Tang Hai out of the ward. Tang Hai's expression grew increasingly sinister, but he left without saying anything more. After seeing Tang Hai off, Zhao Nan returned to Xia Xian and asked, Don't you think there's something odd about that person's gaze? It makes me uncomfortable. Xia Xian agreed, and while she was at it, she glanced at the lady in the room. Realizing she had caused an awkward situation, the lady didn't dare to say anything more and obediently closed her eyes to sleep. Worried that Zhao Nan wouldn't be comfortable sleeping, Xia Xian proposed, How about we both sleep on the bed? You have work tomorrow, and that reclining chair won't be very comfortable to sleep in. Zhao Nan casually replied, It's fine. You know my sleep quality, even if the sky falls, it won't wake me up. It's just a reclining chair, not the floor. It won't affect my sleep. Rest up, and if there's anything tonight, remember to call me. The next morning, Zhao Nan stayed with Xia Xian until they completed the X.ray. The X.ray showed that Xia Xian's leg bones were fine, and the displaced bone had already been attached. She just needed to avoid intense exercise for about a month. After the examination, Xia Xian took the X.ray and the prescribed medication and went to pick up Lael to go home together. At her doorstep, Xia Xian noticed a sticky note stuck on the door. There was nothing written on it, only a paw print of a dog. Xia Xian recognized it as Bobo's paw print, left by Jing Mo and Bobo when they came to her home and couldn't find her. However, she didn't know when it was left. It seemed like it had been there for quite a while since the edges were curling. Thinking about how the seemingly aloof Jing Mo would engage in such a childish game with a dog like Bobo, Xia Xian couldn't help but smile. She took the sticky note down, straightened it, and put it into her pocket before entering her home. Before entering, Xia Xian felt a bit uneasy. Since the last time Zhang Liang caused a scene here, she hadn't been home. The place was probably a mess, and she didn't want to deal with cleaning while nursing her injured leg. However, to Xia Xian's surprise, the house was very clean and tidy, obviously having been meticulously cleaned. But she had no idea who could have done it so thoughtfully. She pondered, Zhao Nan didn't pay much attention to details, so it probably wasn't her. Could it have been something I instructed Zhao Nan to do before losing consciousness? While Xia Xian was lost in thought, she suddenly smelled the aroma of food. She wondered if she was so hungry that she was hallucinating. She was the only one in the house, so it was weird that she could smell food. Xia Xian sniffed again carefully, confirming that she wasn't mistaken. Immediately on high alert, she picked up a broom and cautiously made her way towards the kitchen. Lael followed her lead, sticking close to the wall. Thieves were becoming bolder, now they were even cooking in my house. Xia Xian thought. But just as Xia Xian took a couple of steps, she realized something wasn't right. Wait a minute, this scent was too familiar, just like the smell of the braised pork ribs my mother used to make. Then, Xia Xian immediately realized that it was Gu Fan. Gu Fan had a spare key and could enter and exit Xia Xian's house at will. Hearing movement, Xia Xian knew Gu Fan was about to come out. She quickly placed the broom on the floor and stood at attention. Gu Fan came out carrying a plate of sweet and sour pork ribs and another plate of crispy pork belly. Seeing Xia Xian, she was startled for a moment, then smiled and said, "You little girl, you're back without making a sound. You scared me. Wash your hands quickly and sit down to eat." Gu Fan placed the dishes on the table and then took a moment to really look at Xia Xian. Seeing Xia Xian holding X.rays in her hand, Gu Fan grew nervous and asked, "Whose X.rays are those?" Mine. What happened? Where are you injured?" Xia Xian hurriedly lied to comfort Gu Fan, "Mom, don't worry. It's just that I sprained my foot a bit today at the zoo. I went to the hospital, but there was no serious issue. Don't worry." Relieved, Gu Fan scolded Xia Xian slightly and looked at her with a hint of irritation. Gu Fan said, "Be more careful in the future. You're all grown up, but you can't take care of yourself when you're out. You always make me worry." Chapter 66. 66, A Mother's Love. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 66. A Mother's Love. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Feeling touched, Xia Xian's eyes welled up with tears, and she couldn't help but hug Gu Fan, saying, "Mom, thank you. I love you so much." Gu Fan replied, "Silly child, no need to thank me. Wash your hands quickly and sit down to eat." Looking at the table full of dishes she loved, Xia Xian's appetite grew, and she ended up eating 2 bowls of rice without realizing it. After finishing her meal, she couldn't help but burp. Having devoured her meal, Xia Xian suddenly remembered to ask Gu Fan, "Mom, why did you come all of a sudden? You didn't even tell me. I've been staying at Zhao Nan's place for the past couple of days. If I hadn't come back today, the meals you prepared would have gone to waste." Gu Fan, looking very content, gazed at her daughter and said, "It's not wasted at all. I had the spontaneous idea to come and cook a meal for you today. I have to go to work in the afternoon, so I didn't inform you." I planned it out. If you didn't come back, I was going to freeze these dishes in the fridge, and you could just heat them up whenever you want. Xia Xian savored another piece of sweet and sour pork rib, feeling a deep sense of happiness. The feeling of being cared for by her mother was wonderful. There was nothing in this world more valuable than the love of parents that she should cherish. Once Xia Xian finished eating, Gu Fan started to collect the dishes to wash them. Xia Xian stopped Gu Fan and said, "Mom, don't bother. You've already cleaned the house so nicely. Let me take care of the rest." Gu Fan looked puzzled and said, "Take care of what? Isn't it you who cleaned the house so nicely? I was wondering why you suddenly changed today, actually being willing to clean up the house. It's so clean that I even doubted if I went to the wrong house. I thought maybe your dad secretly told you I was coming, so you cleaned up ahead of time." Xia Xian was stunned and thought, I hadn't cleaned the house so thoroughly. Who could it be? It couldn't be Lael, right? While Gu Fan continued to tidy up, she couldn't help but nag at Xia Xian, "Look at you, all grown up, yet your home is always so messy. What if guests come over and see this? And also, don't cover the peephole with that sticky note at the door. The peephole is for you to see who's knocking. If you cover it with a note, how will you see outside? What if a bad person comes and you open the door?" Xia Xian was mentally resisting and thought, I'm no longer a child, so why did I need to be told not to open the door to strangers? Wait a second, the sticky note. Right, it must be Jinyamo. Xia Xian suddenly realized. Jinyamo had put a sticky note on the door, maybe not to tell her that he had been there, but to let her know that the house had been cleaned. Xia Xian wasn't sure, though. She planned to text Jinyamo to confirm. Having listened to Gu Fan's many words without really paying attention, Xia Xian replied somewhat flustered, I heard you. I'll be careful. This residential area has good security service. You don't need to worry about me. Gu Fan said, there's no parent in the world who doesn't worry about their child. A couple of days ago, you mentioned selling the house for relocation and buying a new one. I inquired about the property prices in this neighborhood. If you're buying a second-hand house, the compensation from the house for relocation should just about cover it. If you're interested, we can buy this one. If you want a new one, it might require a bit more. But your dad and I have saved enough money in the last couple of years to buy a new house. What are your thoughts? My parents worked hard their whole lives, and they're willing to use their savings to help me buy a house. Xia Xian thought. Tears welled up in Xia Xian's eyes again, and she hugged Gu Fan tightly. She said, Mom, I'm lucky to have you. In her heart, Xia Xian added, I'm lucky to have both of you by my side in this life. Silly child, think about it yourself. I need to hurry to work, said Gu Fan. Xia Xian personally saw Gu Fan off in the elevator before returning to rest. She calculated the money she had earned recently from work, including advertising fees and earnings from participating in variety shows. It amounted to about 500,000 yuan. Xia Xian planned to use the money she had to take her parents on a trip abroad first. If she needed more to buy a new house, the remaining money should be enough. However, Xia Xian didn't want to rush into things. The house had to be to her liking, she couldn't just buy any house. Chapter 67. 67, Harassment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 67. Harassment. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The house Xia Xian's parents lived in was a small two-bedroom apartment, old and cramped. Sometimes, Xia Xian and her family would still manage to live together in it, but now that she was older, it felt a bit crowded. Xia Xian wanted to buy a bigger and better house for her parents so that they could all live together as a family. After thinking about that, Xia Xian remembered the sticky note that Jinyamo had left at the door. She messaged him, did you arrange for a cleaning lady to come and clean for me? Nav Om. After waiting for a while without getting a reply, Xia Xian assumed that Jing Mo was probably busy filming and didn't have time to check his phone. Tired from the previous day's hospital visit, she fell asleep holding her phone. Xia Xian was awakened by a WeChat message and saw that it was already 3 p.m. Jing Mo replied, "Yes, I arranged for a cleaning lady. The broken things have been cleaned up, and I also installed a camera at the entrance." Following that, Jing Mo sent Xia Xian instructions on how to connect to the surveillance footage on her phone. Once again, Xia Xian was surprised by Jing Mo's thoughtfulness and replied, "Mr. Jing, thank you for your help. How much was the cleaning fee? I'll transfer it to you." After Jing Mo received the payment, he suddenly asked, "About the meal you mentioned treating me to, when do you plan to fulfill that?" Ha! Xia Xian was taken aback and thought, would Jing Mo say something like that? Could it be that son who was the one using his phone to chat? But Xia Xian still gave a response, "How about tomorrow evening?" Since it was already 3 p.m., it was too late for today, and Xia Xian's leg still hadn't fully recovered, so going out was not a good idea. Tomorrow would be the most suitable time. Jing Mo quickly replied with a single word, "Okay." Stretching lazily, Xia Xian got ready to get up, and then she received a call from Tang Hai. Xia Xian found it strange because she thought that after last night's incident, Tang Hai would understand her attitude and wouldn't bother her anymore. She couldn't understand why he was calling her again today. Xia Xian answered the call, and Tang Hai didn't wait for her to speak before asking directly, "Why aren't you at the hospital?" Tang Hai's tone sounded more like an accusation. Xia Xian furrowed her brows and asked, "How do you know I'm not at the hospital?" Tang Hai said, "I came to the hospital to see you. The lady in the same ward told me that you were discharged this morning." Xia Xian felt like she was being watched, making her uncomfortable. Moreover, Lael seemed visibly agitated upon hearing Tang Hai's voice. Xia Xian could only pat Lael's head to calm him down. Xia Xian replied, "Mr. Tang, we're just colleagues. You don't need to worry about me this much." Tang Hai didn't speak and instead asked forcefully, "Where's your apartment? I'll come and see you." Xia Xian found Tang Hai increasingly strange. When she had turned him down before, he had maintained a polite social distance. She wondered why he was suddenly so persistent, like a piece of plaster. Xia Xian said, "You can't come. My apartment is not convenient right now." Tang Hai persisted, "Why not? Is it because your boyfriend is at home?" Suddenly, Xia Xian realized that yesterday, to turn him down, she had made up a boyfriend. But what's with his tone? I had nothing to do with him. Whether I had a boyfriend or not was none of his business. His tone was so nauseating that it seemed like he was suspecting me of cheating on him. Xia Xian thought. Xia Xian's tone was not very friendly as she said, "Mr. Tang, unless it's work-related, we shouldn't contact each other anymore. I find it inappropriate. And everyone has their private life. The life after work belongs to me. I would rather enjoy it on my own than be disturbed by others." After ending the call, Xia Xian called the veterinarian to inquire about Bao's condition. After confirming that Bao had been successfully treated, Xia Xian felt relieved. The veterinarian chatted with Xia Xian, "There's something strange." When Bao was brought in, the bleeding from the wound had already stopped, but the wound couldn't have stopped bleeding without removing the splinter. Perhaps Bao's recovery ability is better than other giant pandas. This seems like a case worth studying. The veterinarian got more and more excited, while Xia Xian could only agree without expressing an opinion. Bao was able to stop bleeding in time because of Xia Xian's beast language system's passive healing ability. As long as Xia Xian got close to Bao, she could speed up its recovery. Of course, Xia Xian couldn't say this out loud. Chapter 68. 68, targeted. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 68. Targeted Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Xia Xian's leg injury wasn't too severe, but it still hurt on the second day, and even getting out of bed was a struggle. She realized that she had overestimated her physical stamina. Even with her attributes raised to 80 points, it couldn't compensate for her inherent weakness. Xia Xian called Lu Yuan to request a leave of absence. Lu Yuan's tone was serious as he answered, "Xian, your call couldn't have come at a better time. I was just about to contact you about something." Lu Yuan rarely sounded so serious, so when he used that tone, Xia Xian knew that something significant had happened. She thought it might be related to the person who damaged the rockery last time and got caught. However, Lu Yuan told her an even more shocking piece of news. "I had someone examine the wood left from the collapsed cabin and discovered marks on the wood inside the cabin's side that indicate it was sawed through with a saw. This caused the unstable wood inside the cabin to be knocked over when the giant panda entered. Bao was injured and unable to move, so he temporarily supported the cabin. Once Bao moves, the cabin will lose support and naturally collapse," Lu Yuan said. "So, it was another case of sabotage caused by a person," Xia Xian pondered. She found this matter extremely terrifying. "Mr. Lu, what does the director of the show say about this? Their industry competition has now endangered the safety of the animals and even harmed people. Are they going to just turn a blind eye?" Xia Xian asked. Lu Yuan's tone grew even more serious and said, "Xian, this matter isn't just a simple business rivalry. Haven't you noticed that no matter what this person does, it doesn't affect the filming of the variety show or even the airing of the episodes? After the show airs, there's a series of positive feedback. Also, this person isn't using the internet to control things. This indicates that their target is not the show, but the zoo." Xia Xian thought about it carefully, and it was indeed the case. The person's actions always only targeted the zoo's facilities and animals. But she couldn't figure out why the person would target the zoo. Xia Xian had a sudden realization. She recalled that the things the person damaged were all traceable. Because the guests' positions were random, and the timing of things falling was also random, this person couldn't predict in advance. Therefore, the rockery incident could only have targeted Xia Xian, who was standing by the rockery, leisurely playing with the pandas. And the second time, only Xia Xian and the 3 giant pandas were by the cabin. The appearance of the guests was merely an accident. But because there were guests present both times, they overlooked this detail, thinking that the person was targeting the variety show. In reality, it wasn't. The person's true target was Xia Xian. Realizing that, Xia Xian suddenly felt a chill. She had no idea who she had offended so much, and why that person would target her everywhere. She couldn't help but wonder if the person thought it was a joke. If Xia Xian hadn't sensed it with her keen perception beforehand in each accident, she could very well have died in these accidents. Xia Xian's speculation aligned with Lu Yuan's. Lu Yuan was worried as he asked, "Xian, think carefully, have you offended anyone?" Xia Xian couldn't think of anyone. She rarely interacted with people, and she was friendly. She also wondered who could hate her to the point of wanting her dead. Lu Yuan suggested, "Xian, maybe we should report this to the police." Xia Xian hesitated and said, "But these are just our speculations. Reporting it won't help without evidence." Lu Yuan sighed, "Indeed, this person is cunning. They know to disable the surveillance before acting, so there's no trace to follow." Wait. Xia Xian suddenly realized something. "Mr. Lu, are you saying that this person manages to disable the surveillance every time they act?" Lu Yuan said, "Yes, because there's no sign of damage to the surveillance." Xia Xian suddenly had a hunch. Whoever could disable the surveillance must have free access to the control room and be able to move around each section of the zoo. This person had to be a senior member of the zoo, and there were only 7 individuals in the zoo with that level of access. That could be easily investigated. A bold idea suddenly struck Xia Xian, and it horrified her. She said, "Mr. Liu, I have a way to make this person expose himself." Lu Yuan asked, "How?" Xia Xian said, "Allow me to keep you in suspense for now. This will also require the cooperation of the crew. Do you know when the next episode of the show will be recorded?" After checking the schedule coordinated with the production crew, Lu Yuan answered, "In 3 days." Chapter 69. 69. Comments. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 69. Comments. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Xia Xian said, "Sure, Mr. Liu, I'll trouble you with that when the time comes. But things inside the zoo might still get damaged." Lu Yuan replied, "As long as we catch the troublemaker, those things don't matter." Xia Xian felt that capturing this person was the most important thing now, so she had to recover and be ready to confront her adversary. So Xia Xian messaged Jing Mo again, "Mr. Jing, I have something going on recently. Can we schedule dinner next week?" Jing Mo was still reading the script. As soon as he heard the notification sound for the message, he picked up his phone. After reading the message, his eyebrows involuntarily furrowed for a moment. This micro-dot expression was coincidentally caught by Sun Hu. Sun Hu looked at Jing Mo with an amused expression and said, "To be honest, after knowing you for so many years, this is the first time I've seen a girl reject you." Then, Jing Mo gave Sun Hu a cold glance. Sun Hu shut up obediently but couldn't resist continuing, "Apart from being slightly good-looking, what's so special about Xia Xian that makes you care so much? The entertainment industry is full of good-looking people, and countless others are better-looking than Xia Xian. I've never seen you care about anyone like this before. What's going on?" Jing Mo put down his phone and continued to read the script. However, he still answered Sun Hu's question, "Actually, I'm not entirely sure if she's the person I'm looking for. I had that idea after she saved someone during the first episode recording. I'll let you know the details once I confirm." Sun Hu didn't ask any more questions. He knew Jing Mo had been searching for someone for a long time, but he never revealed what kind of person it was. Sun Hu understood that this topic was best left untouched. This was the first time Jing Mo had actively brought up the topic in so many years. Sun Hu thought that Xia Xian had a high likelihood of being the person he was looking for. Xia Xian spent 3 whole days resting at home and didn't go out. What puzzled her was that she could always hear footsteps outside her door. After Gu Fan had prepared a lot of food and put it in the fridge, enough for Xia Xian for 3 days, it couldn't be food delivery. The owner of those footsteps paced back and forth, as if deliberately marking time. Saying Xia Xian wasn't scared was a lie, but fortunately, every time the footsteps sounded, Leo would position himself in front of her and stay there until the footsteps moved away. For her own safety, Xia Xian didn't leave her home for 3 days. What she didn't anticipate was that after the second episode aired, one person was criticized and trended on social media because of her. That person was Wan. Although the production team tried their best to prevent videos of the accidents from spreading, many audience members recorded videos on .site. Therefore, the situation at the time was largely captured and uploaded online. Netizens saw that Mo Shu remained in the same spot by the collapsed cabin, waiting for Xia Xian to come out, while Wan distanced herself and kept far away. Thus, the comments overwhelmingly criticized Wan for being selfish and disregarding the safety of her companions. The netizens also believed that even if Xia Xian wasn't an actress, Wan should have helped her. Instead, Wan only cared about her own safety. After the show aired, netizens magnified Wan's moments of acting cute and accused her of overacting. When she acted affectionately towards Xia Xian, it seemed like they were close friends, but when something happened, she was the first to turn and walk away. A video of Won rolling her eyes during a fan meeting event was also found by netizens. For a while, it seemed like the whole internet was criticizing Won. What made Won even angrier was that due to the comments, the production team decided not to invite her for the third episode. Instead, they replaced her with another team member who debuted with her and happened to be the one she disliked the most, Gao Xian. However, Xia Xian was unaware of this matter because she used the 3 days of rest to thoroughly examine her newly upgraded system. Xia Xian unexpectedly discovered that her beast language system now had a new passive skill with a calming effect. Although she didn't know exactly how it would be useful, having an additional skill made her happy. This could serve as an extra card when dealing with the twisted person who harmed animals and her. For the rest of the time, Xia Xian spent almost all of it sleeping, making up for the sleep she had missed over the past few days. She had no time to read online comments. However, Won attributed this incident to Xia Xian, who remained silent throughout. Chapter 70. 70, Mysterious Guest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 70. Mysterious Guest. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Due to the backlash Won faced from trending on social media, Li Jie was constantly on the phone dealing with public relations issues. He was so busy that he felt dizzy, and even the production team informed him that they wouldn't be inviting Won for future episodes. As Li Jie anxiously paced, Won was in a fit of anger and said, "It's all because of that woman. Who exactly is she? There must be a powerful backer supporting her from behind. Otherwise, how could all the netizens' comments be overwhelmingly in her favor?" Li Jie rolled his eyes internally and thought, did she not know her own princess's temper? She had caused so much trouble, and now she was blaming others. But to avoid being scolded, Li Jie kept his mouth shut. The more Won thought, the angrier she became, clenching her fists, her long and elegant nails digging into her skin. She muttered, "Xia Xian, I'll make sure you taste what it's like to be subjected to online bullying." The filming of the third episode of the variety show took place in the Lions area. Upon hearing about lions, Xia Xian couldn't help but recall the final scene from her previous life, where a lion had opened its blood-stained mouth and bitten her delicate neck clean off. Whenever Xia Xian recalled that scene, she couldn't help but shiver. This fear of lions persisted, and even though time had passed, she still occasionally had nightmares of her neck being torn apart. She would wake up in a cold sweat, clutching her neck in terror. However, for the sake of her safety, Xia Xian was determined to push through this time, to muster her courage. Because compared to ferocious lions, the most terrifying thing was the deceitful human heart. She must catch that person. The female guest for the third episode had been confirmed, but the identity of the male guest remained a mystery. The director of the show even teased, revealing that it was a heavyweight guest, dropping a hint that the person was an upcoming award-winning male actor. This gimmick stirred up a lot of buzz, with many fans debating the mystery guest's identity. As a result of the heightened discussion and the man's mysterious nature, only the director and assistant director were privy to the guest's identity among the crew members. Due to the intense speculation and the guest's enigmatic status, Xia Xian's curiosity had been piqued. So much so that when Jing Mo appeared in the backstage dressing room, Xia Xian couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "Why is it you?" Jing Mo looked at Xia Xian and asked, "Who were you hoping for?" Xia Xian didn't have any expectations because she could count the number of male celebrities she knew in the entertainment industry on one hand. Moreover, when the director announced that the male actor might win an award, Xia Xian's heart skipped a beat. She had a small glimmer of hope that it might be Jing Mo. So her current surprise was also partly a result of her correctly guessing the outcome. Seeing another female celebrity in the room applying makeup, Xia Xian was aware of how complex the entertainment industry could be. She was concerned that if her acquaintance with Jing Mo was discovered, it might be overly sensationalized. She wanted to change the topic and go sit on the couch while waiting for the recording to start. However, Jing Mo's gaze shifted to Xia Xian's leg, and he asked, "How's your?" Xia Xian was slightly taken aback. "How did you know?" "Anyone who goes online should know, I suppose," Jing Mo said. "He's got a point there." Xia Xian realized she had asked a somewhat foolish question. Xia Xian stood up to move her leg, showing Jing Mo that it was completely fine. She said, "It's already recovered. It was just a sprain. A few days of rest and it's all good." Jing Mo sat at the makeup table, glancing at the script, and casually remarked, "Being your creditor, I've always worried about whether you'll be able to afford the next meal." Gao Xian, who was sitting nearby and unable to move while her hair and makeup were being done, seemed to have heard some major news. Even though she couldn't turn her head, she shifted her eyes in their direction and said with a playful smile, "It seems like I've heard a secret." Xia Xian was also taken aback, and in an instant, a myriad of thoughts rushed through her mind. Is Jing Mo not concerned about online public opinion? What if news about us knowing each other spread online and it got exaggerated? Was he not afraid of fans discussing and unfollowing him? Especially since there was another female celebrity here. Didn't people in the entertainment industry value privacy? I had thought Jing Mo might pretend not to know me intentionally. Why was he saying things that could easily be misunderstood? Seeming to sense what Xia Xian was thinking, Gao Xian smiled mischievously and explained, "If it were someone else, Jing Mo might worry a bit. But because it's me, the big mouth, he doesn't need to worry. Besides, everyone backstage is one of us, so no one would spread rumors."